Holy crap, Marvel had the balls to actually do this. I didn't think they would. I honestly, when the verdict came out that Jonathan Majors was going to be convicted or was convicted of harassment and assault, I didn't think that Marvel would at least quickly handle this issue like they did. I'm not saying that this is wrong how they handled it. I'm not saying that it's right how they handled it. I just can't believe that they did it this fast. I also can't believe that they had the balls to do it in the manner that they did. Now, this is coming from, and I'm sure you've all heard this now, but this is coming from Variety. Marvel Studios has dropped Jonathan Majors following the guilty verdict for harassment and assault. Now, there's a possibility of being convicted on 4 fronts, 2 for harassment, 2 for assault. And the really interesting, the interesting thing here is the harassment is what it is. That it's bad in itself. But the assault charge that he got convicted of is the interesting one, because there was an assault charge where he was charged for like purposefully hurting this person, this woman. And then there was an assault charge where he didn't mean to, where it was not intentionally hurting her. And that's the one that he got convicted of. And to me, I'm shocked that Marvel handled it that way. When you take a look at it, not saying that it's okay, we should just, sweep it under the rug, what have you. No, but the fact that they have not even sat back, they didn't take the time to look at this. Now, obviously, what it sounds like to me is that Marvel most likely had this all figured out for weeks or months, that they knew what they were going to do. If there was a verdict of guilt, he was gone. If there was a verdict of innocence, he was staying. That kind of seems like what they were going for, what was going to happen. And I think that's why this happened so quickly. Real quick, the Variety article says, Marvel Studios has parted ways with Jonathan Majors, the actor who was cast to play King, the central antagonist in the multiverse saga of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, after he was convicted on December 18th of 2 misdemeanor counts of harassment and assault of Grace Jabari, his ex-girlfriend. A source close to the studio confirmed to Variety. The verdict, Majors was also found not guilty of 1 count of intentional assault in the 3rd degree and 1 count of aggravated harassment in the 2nd degree. Now, this all stems from what happened on March 25th, and I've been talking about this for months on my podcast, Bridging the Geekdoms, and I've stated, I think this was such a terrible situation where I think Marvel had to walk away from him. The fact that they didn't for so long, I think was a bad move on their part. But I am shocked that they truly had the balls to do it as quickly as they did after the verdict, because of how they just never really spoke about it. They never touched the subject up until this point. But that brings up some additional questions when it comes to Marvel now, right? I mean, look, we know that what happened was terrible. I do hope that this is a wake-up call for Jonathan Majors. I hope that he gets the help that he needs. I hope that he can find a way to better himself and make sure that moving forward he is able to treat women better. And I hope that the woman, his ex-girlfriend, can find peace and find the help that she needs, and they can come to some peace of mind themselves. But yes, as a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as a fan of movies, it's hard not to then turn your attention to what is going to happen with Marvel. And that is kind of what I'm going to talk about here for a few minutes, is what is going to happen with Marvel. What is the next step for them? Are they going to recast Kang? I've heard some crazy ideas. I like the idea of recasting, and I've thrown out names like John Boyega, who I think would be a great choice. Sterling K. Brown, which I know that he was already in the first Black Panther movie, but he was killed off relatively quickly. Nobody will notice. I think he would be a great choice. But, I've heard some outlandish one like saying Ray Fisher, which I think would be a terrible idea. I think he would be just as much of a distraction, if not more so, for Marvel Studios and Disney had they bring him in, or if they were to bring him in. I mean, let's face it, what he did to Warner Brothers Studios a couple years ago and the way that he handled it, look, I'm all for, calling out, being a whistleblower, making things right. I'm all for that. I understand why he did what he did there. But the way that he handled it, the way that he went, and just he handled it in such a terrible way. There's a reason why studios aren't calling him now. There's a reason why the only person that is working with him in Hollywood is Zack Snyder right now, and probably only because he feels bad that he put him in that situation to begin with in Justice League. Let's face it, if that didn't happen, Zack probably wouldn't be working with him again. But that's neither here nor there. I think that is a terrible idea. Don't bring Ray Fisher into this. I think it would be a just bad juju all around. But that gets us to this. If they don't recast, what do? Do they just walk away from the King idea? I've talked about it on Bridging the Geekdoms as well. Do they just bring in a new villain? Do they bring in Doctor Doom? Do they just focus on Galactus? Do they bring in Mr. Sinister from the X-Men? What do they do in this regard? I mean, the multiverse saga hasn't worked to this point. It's been a disgrace. It's been a terrible debacle from the very beginning, essentially. Let's face it, No Way Home was only good because of the member berries. But besides that, Doctor Strange, that multiverse, that film was a letdown. Loki was good. I liked Loki, but it didn't really dive into the multiverse aspect like we all were hoping it would, but it was still good. Don't get me wrong, it was still great in that regard. WandaVision was bad. I mean, you get into the whole idea of the multiverse, Quantumania, that was terrible. Again, this whole idea of the multiverse when it comes to Marvel, it hasn't worked. So do they just write it off and say, look, we tried, we didn't know what we were doing, let's make a new plan. Doctor Doom is our new big bad. Let's move forward with that. It's going to be interesting, for sure. Again, it's upsetting. Jonathan Majors is such a phenomenal actor, and it sucks to see this happen to such a great talent. But he needs to pay the price. He needs to, suffer the consequences of his actions. It's that simple. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully he finds the peace and the help that he needs because of this. And hopefully he's able to come back down the line and be a better man, a better person after all of this. I do hope so. But, from Marvel's standpoint, let's see what happens. I am for the recasting and maybe hopefully salvaging the multiverse saga aspect. But if they don't, yeah, sure, let's go with Doctor Doom being the big bad. Why not? It can't get any worse than it's been, right? Right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think they're going to recast? Do you think they're just going to go in a new direction? Do you think they should just cancel Marvel Studios, all their Marvel Cinematic Universe altogether? What do you think? Throw in the comments below. And with all that said, I will catch all of you later.